Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of Butternomics. I'm your host, Brandon Butler, founder and CEO of Butter ATL. And today, got somebody special in the building, the one, the only, Mr. Jeremy Avalon. Jeremy, how you doing, bro?
I'm great. How you doing, man?
If I was any better, I'd be you, brother.
What do they say? If I had your hands, I cut mine off or
Yeah,
something
you
like
know
that.
what I'm saying,
Somewhere.
man? Look, man, it's all good, man. Thank you for pulling up on us.
Thank you, man. This is fun.
So, for a lot of folks, man, a lot of podcasts, a lot of folks, they like to do the whole tell me about yourself and all that kind of stuff. We do something a little bit different here on Butternomics. You know what I'm saying? Business of Culture podcast. One thing we always do is we always ask ChatGPT to write a short bio about our guests. So I'm gonna read what ChatGPT says about you, and I want you to tell me: is it on? Is it off? We gotta make a couple phone calls. We gotta send some emails to tighten this thing up. Okay, you gonna let me know?
Let's do it.
All right. Jeremy Avalon is an Atlanta-based artist who wears several hats: DJ, producer, and guitarist. He's a member of the Work Crew Collective and plays guitar for Heavy Mojo, a local stable in Atlanta. His musical roots trace back to a massive vinyl collection from his dad, which inspired him early on. He's known for blending global sounds from Afro-Latino, Caribbean, hip-hop, funk, indie, dance, and deep house into his sets. He shares stages with a range of artists like Fishbone, Cowboy Mouth, and DJs and hip hop figures like Jazzy Jeff, Talib Kweli, Pete Rock, Brian Michael Cox, and many others. Locally, he's a fixture at major events in Atlanta. You may have seen him on the stage DJ One Music Fest, A3C Afro Punk, or at clubs like MJQ hosting his high key disco party. He's taking his knowledge to academic spaces, teaching panel discussions at Emory University. The one, the only, Mr. Jeremy Avalon. Sir, was that accurate? Was it off? Was it missing anything?
Man, the robots are kind of on, man. I gotta say.
I'm telling you, man. Look, I don't know what you're putting into this thing, but this is what it's putting back out.
Yo, that's wild. Yeah. Pretty much dead on.
Dope, man. Dope.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's talking about all the stuff, man. But one of the things you're probably most known for out here is the groove, right? And y'all got a big anniversary coming up.
Well, we just had a big anniversary.
Okay.
We had 9 years.
Yeah.
We started back in 2015 at the Basement.
Okay.
In East Atlanta Village, and well, actually before that at the Aloft Hotel.
Okay.
In the lobby. Went from there to the Basement at East Atlanta Village, and it just grew. And then we started doing the Masquerade and other bigger venues.
I remember. What brought that on?
Well, the groove or just
the groove,
the expansion.
Yeah.
Well, for one, back 9-10 years ago, there wasn't really a party dedicated to strictly R&B, but like strictly R&B, like no rap segments to appease people, no like hardcore R&B, deep cuts, familiars, the old Basement, get down, kind of feeling. We didn't have that in the city at the time, so we just saw a need. We feel the need that was missing, and we're all really passionate about R&B. My first concert was New Edition.
Okay.
The Heartbreak Tour. I'm aging myself a bit, but
it's all good.
The first person I saw in life on stage was Al B. Shore. So it's like, I've been going to R&B shows my whole life. Seen Janet Rhythm Nation tour as a kid.
I went to that one.
At the Omni.
Yeah, at the Omni.
Man, yep. That was one of the first shows I went to when I moved to Atlanta as a young guy. And yeah, man, just going to shows. My parents, I have cool parents, thankfully. They drug us to Luther and Anita and all kind of shows. So that sparked my R&B interest, as a child. And hey, man, I just want to represent that in a public space now. And it's just something that was missing, and we wanted to bring that to the forefront.
Yeah, man. I mean, you kind of mentioned, you're not originally from Atlanta. You got New York roots, but
Yes.
You represent Atlanta hard. Like, what did that influence mean on your music and just all the stuff you've been building?
Well, I have a unique situation, like a lot of people kind of from the early 90s, having family in two cities and frequenting both of them. My father, even though he grew up in Brooklyn, was born at Grady, randomly. Like my dad was probably the last of his siblings born down south before the migration up to New York. So I'm heavily influenced by a lot of the Southern soul from Otis Redding, James Brown. That's big in my my musical vocabulary and history, as well as New York City and the funk and disco and the boogie from New York City, like Kashif and all these artists that kind of were the soundtrack to my early years.
No, man. So, I love, and that's one thing I've always loved. I mean, I've been to the groove many times, and I think, again, like, it's easy to kind of fall into just like the straight up hip hop, the party stuff, right? But
Right.
it takes something special to kind of put together a whole event around just R&B and kind of creating a whole different vibe. And that's needed in Atlanta. Like, what kind of people typically come out and enjoy that experience?
Well, fortunately, a lot of ladies.
Okay, okay,
And we love our audience. So yeah, a lot of ladies come through. It's a great safe space. It's not a lot of weirdos. It's a lot of well-mannered people
yeah, yeah.
who really like music. And so that's what we love about the Groove, man. It's people that come to enjoy the music. They that aren't just surface level, want to hear. I'm not gonna give any examples, but just do want to hear basic R&B. People that like deep cuts
Yeah.
and real music. So
Yeah, man, for sure, man. And again, you've seen Atlanta like evolve both culturally and musically. Like, what do you remember about those early days? Like, the LaFace records and that kind of time period in Atlanta to what it is now.
oh man, I just remember going to record stores in Atlanta growing up. Some of my favorite artists that were on LaFace, like Damian Dame, rest in
Yeah.
peace to both of them. That's really Atlanta to me. Like when I think of moving to Atlanta, I think of Babyface Tender Lover album
Hmm.
and Damian Dame, early TLC. That's the Atlanta that I came up in. So that's Atlanta in a nutshell for me.
And is that kind of like that kind of continues to influence all the stuff you do? Because a lot of stuff kind of has that same vibe to it, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm a big New Jack Swing nerd,
Yeah.
so I like all the music from that era. So LaFace Records was a huge impact on me just musically and just like, for the city of Atlanta too. I mean, Atlanta was like a baby New York in a lot of ways that every artist passed through here,
Hmm.
growing up. So it was very interesting to have that dynamic of both cities kind of coexisting with each other. There wasn't this whole north south divide that people perpetuate. It was kind of like everybody was kind of exchanging ideas and influencing each other musically
Yeah,
back
yeah.
then. Yeah.
Why do you think it's important that, people really recognize Atlanta's kind of like deep roots in music and history? And like, who are some of the folks come to mind? Because a lot of times, yeah, like, people think about Atlanta from a music standpoint, but they kind of instantly kind of go to the rap and hip hop stuff,
Yeah.
and they're like, "Oh yeah, LaFace was doing all this." And it's like, yeah, all kind of stuff was happening. But we talked about the SOS band and all these
Yeah.
other groups. Like, why is it important to remember kind of that deep history and who some of those folks you think are kind of the architects that kind of helped even open the doors up for the LaFaces to the So Defs to kind of where
Yeah.
we are now.
Well, I had to give props to my mother and her side of the family. My mom is from Macon, Georgia,
Okay.
so I have that half that Georgia in me, and Gladys Knight and the Pips.
Yeah.
That's the genesis for me of music from Atlanta to me. So Gladys Knight and the Pips, the SOS band, that Jam and Lewis influence sound. That's the Atlanta kind of funk sound to me. So that is what I think of first when I think of Atlanta and music. And of course, all the hip hop that came, but even the pre-Outkast hip hop, like
Yeah.
Kilo Ali's and shout out to Mojo and like some of these early hip hop influencers, that kind of shaped the whole Atlanta kind of sound for me in my head.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely a lot more, soulful. I mean, I'm not gonna be one of them old guys that's like, oh, it was better then. I think
Yeah,
every decade and every moment, it has reasons why it's like,
yeah,
popular and has things. I mean, again, I have a young daughter, you know what I'm saying? And like I want her to let me listen to stuff all the time. I want to
yeah,
hear what's hot in these streets. And so I don't
absolutely,
want to be an old head, be like, I'm hating on whatever kind of came before, right? But to your point, like there's a lot of stuff that's kind of, built the foundation. Now, you also do an event called High Key Disco. Tell me about
absolutely.
that.
So High Key Disco is kind of a tribute to that specifically. So
Okay.
I was born in 1982. So I think that is like the funkiest year of all time, kind
Okay.
of, right?
Okay.
So there's a really funky time period in music, post disco, before New Jack Swing. You got everyone from the SOS band to Kashif, like I said earlier, to the Whispers, and this whole kind of early '80s boogie funk that was not that was faster than the R&B at the time, but slower than the disco.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a good pocket in between. Think of like Michael Jackson, "Rock with You" kind of tempo vibe. That is the kind of essence of high key disco to me, because it's high key disco,
Yeah.
but it's really funky too. You know what I'm saying?
Nah, I feel you, man. And like one of the things you talk about too sometimes is like activism, through
Yeah.
music. Like what exactly do you mean by that?
Well, I like to play music that doesn't how do I say it? I like to play music that doesn't like I'm losing the word here.
When people
But
people don't get shot.
yeah. Well, people don't get shot. Like I like to play music that that is uplifting and is not talking about negative things about us as a
Yeah.
people. I want to hear our music and our art forms elevated. So that's what my activism is as far as the R&B thing goes. I want it to be on the same level as a classical music or any kind of music that that we deem as high art or
Hmm.
whatever. Like we make high art too.
Yeah.
It's just we have to push our art in those spaces too.
No, absolutely, man.
Yeah.
And like you said, you've been doing that for a minute. The Groove you just said has its 9-year anniversary. Like, what do you think is the secret to kind of building an event that lasts that long? Because there's not a lot of events, especially in Atlanta, or just in general, that go on for that
Yeah.
long and still kind of find ways to stay fresh. I mean, they're not making any new old school music, you
Not
know
at
what I'm
all.
saying? But
Not at
y'all
all.
find new ways to put together and new, venues to do it. But like, what do you think kind of helps drive the staying power for that event?
Well, I think too, just the love for the music.
Hmm.
First of all, is the drive for our event, and then also with R&B in particular, like you said, there isn't any newer old school music, but as we age, there are things that become classic.
Yeah.
So things from the early 2000s when we were in college, that's music that people grew up on now. So sometimes we have to remember, oh, this Ashanti record is old school to them, but
Hmm.
then there's this whole generation of people that Ashanti record would be the equivalent of a Bobby Brown record to
Yeah.
us. You know what I'm saying? So it's just the way music keeps on evolving. We'll always have classics of some sort. So that's what I love about doing the R&B thing.
No, that's a good point, man. I always trip and I listen to some of the the old school stations now, and
Right.
like some of my songs are coming on. I'm like,
Right.
wait a
Right.
minute, man. Am I the old head? Am I the old head now? Hold up,
Man,
you
I
know.
tell you, yeah.
But
I
that's a
tell
good point, though, man. You're right. Like even though they're not making any like new old school, like my mom used to listen to growing up, and have to clean the house up on Saturdays.
right.
A lot of those things that we grew up on in kind of our teenage years and early 20 years. Like I mean, yeah, that stuff was 20 years
20
ago.
years ago.
And so the
Plus,
ability to kind of mix that in and kind of have that, I think that's interesting too. Like I always talk about kind of like juxtaposition. And
absolutely.
so I always think about, like, I've always wondered, like, what's the process like when you even make these sets? Like, explain to me, like, okay, the groove is coming up or an event's coming up. Like, how do you even start to sit down and figure out, all right, like, I'm gonna do this set. This is the vibe I want to do. I'm gonna connect these different albums. Like, what's kind of your process for even putting that together?
Well, I think for me, I there's usually a song or two that I want to get to,
Mm-hmm.
and that either is a personal deep cut of mine or something that I just haven't played in a long time that I just want to put out there. So that's part of it. But my strategy is really, I like to take the year away from things because there's a lot of ageism and year discrimination, I guess, especially in black music. We kind of have a tendency to say, oh well, this person's old or this person's
Yeah.
whatever. But I like to take the year out of music because there's not really a large difference in like the music we grew up in and like K Tronada or
Okay.
like somebody like that.
Yeah.
It's really a tempo thing. So as long as music is in similar keys and similar tempos, you can dance to it. You can play Jodeci and Brent Fayez and XYZ person all at the same time because it's really the same music. You think about classical music, right?
Yeah.
Something could have been 500 years old or something could have been made yesterday, but it's both classical music. You don't know the difference of when it came out.
Mm-hmm.
So I would like R&B to be more like that in a way, like that we could play everything from multiple eras and everybody's just with it.
Okay, so that's how you kind of
Yeah.
start. You say, you know what, like I'm gonna do this set. I have a couple of different songs I want to make sure that I get to,
Yeah.
but I'm gonna kind of based on those, I'm gonna kind of almost like build around and build up to that and train.
Yeah.
That's how you kind of approach it.
Absolutely. And then a lot of it is just freestyle,
Yeah, yeah.
Like I said, I'll plan like maybe two or three songs that I'm like, okay, I want to get to these at this type of tempo,
Hmm.
but then everything else I'm just feeding off the audience, and seeing, if I see a certain person come in that I know a song that they like just in the back of my head, I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, I'm gonna get them. So it's just kind of like that. That's what I would do it.
Okay. Now look, I was a DJ for a hot minute, man. A hot minute. You know what I'm saying? So I gotta ask, you a vinyl guy? You a Serato guy? Like, how do you feel about the whole digital element? Because again, I know some people, they're very sensitive about their stuff. But how do you
Right.
feel about the whole like vinyl versus digital element when it comes to just DJing and events and all that stuff?
Right. So I definitely started in the vinyl era.
Yeah.
I'm a big, if you follow me on any social media, I'm vinyling people to death.
Hmm.
I love vinyl. I love the touching the records and manipulating and all that. But also, I do embrace technology. Even if you look at a turntable, it's not meant to be used that way.
Yeah.
It's meant to be played at its normal pitch and normal tempo. But these have a pitch control and we're manipulating. That's technology advancement. Then I remember when CDs came out, and me and my friends, we were like, man, that's so whack, man. You DJing with CDs, son? That's so corny, right?
Right.
But then it's like, okay, now I'm able to have multiple genres of music on one disc, or multiple music on several discs, and not have to bring a whole bunch of records with me. So my back is definitely grateful. You know what I mean,
Yeah.
from that. And then I embrace the technology, man. Hey, it's here to use. So as long as you just stay true to it, I think my biggest advice to DJs really is just like learn how to do everything.
Yeah.
Some people get offended by that though.
Yeah.
When you tell them, if you know how to DJ on a controller, that's great. Now, what if you're in a situation where they have CDJs? Or are you gonna just be like, well, I can't do it now?
Mhm.
What if there's a turntables there? Oh, I can't do it now. I say learn everything. Educate yourself. There was a famous DJ, rest in peace to one of the greatest disco DJs, Larry Levan, and he said that people don't understand how the music gets from the vinyl to the speaker. So how are they gonna understand how to play it? You know what I
Right.
mean? So like I always say, some people don't know a RCA from a hole in their head
Yeah.
sometimes, So educate yourself on equipment, on music, how the music even gets out of the speaker, So that's my biggest advice. Learn everything you can.
For sure, for sure. Now, when did
Yeah,
you start seeing the opportunity to kind of start building a business around this? You have a passion for music, you're doing
absolutely.
DJing, doing events, but when did you say, like, you know what, this could be like a real sustainable thing?
Well, honestly, it was forced upon me, if
Okay.
that makes sense. So, I've been DJing since I was probably 15 years old, right? So this is the mid 90s. Been collecting records since then. I'm kind of like the youngest. I was always like the youngest person in the room,
Hmm.
with all this DJ stuff. So I did what everybody's parents wanted them to do. Get decent grades in high school, go to college, get your degree. I got my degree in digital media, so I have a television background.
Okay.
And I was always DJing on the side, and I was always playing music on the side. I've been playing guitar even before I've been DJing, so I always had that passion to do that. But I wanted to do the straight and narrow corporate America thing, and it was a hard balance. I would work all day. I would gig at night sometimes. When I was with Heavy Mojo, sometimes I would take my PTO to go on tour.
Yeah.
Just stuff like that. But I had that foundation of an education and another adjacent like field, similar. So I got that that job that you're supposed to get after college. That you work hard for. I worked for Turner Broadcasting, Cartoon Network for many years, and then as you know, Turner, massive layoffs.
Hmm.
So I was kind of thrust into it because it was like, okay, my DJ thing is starting to take off a little bit, but I'm glad I still got this corporate thing. But when that corporate thing didn't have me
Yeah.
anymore, it was kind of like, okay, now I could either I could either keep this charade of trying to do both, right? Or put my efforts into this into actually doing this DJ thing, and that's how it kind of happened for me. Like it wasn't a choice; it was just kind of like, hey, pushed off the deep end, go swim.
No, no, you got to jump out there, man. You have to
Yeah,
respond to it. Now, when it comes to, DJing, this is a business. These events are a business, and a lot of
absolutely.
folks that are creatives kind of sometimes struggle to monetize, their work. How did you start to really kind of bring in that element to make sure you weren't just known as like, a dope DJ, but like a dope DJ need to get it paid too?
Absolutely. Well, there's a lot of dope people sitting at home. There's
Right.
like there's somebody better than Michael Jordan who was just dope at the playground, but never took off. But I say is really educating yourself about the business of events,
Hmm.
because events are a business. You can be the greatest DJ in the world, but if you don't know how to communicate with venues, You don't know how to, you know, even write emails,
Yeah.
just simple things like that to network with other creatives, to network with other entities, corporate entities. We've been blessed to have a couple of good sponsorships along the way. But if we didn't like research how to go about those, or just be in the same room as people to meet these people who can provide these kind of opportunities, we would just be dope at home.
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah,
How
for
do
sure.
you how what advice would you give to like, somebody that wants to get in this space? Because I think again, a lot of times when you do service-based stuff and creative work, there's even a struggle to kind of figure out like where's my value in the market and like what's the right number? Am I asking for too much? Am I asking for not enough? Like how did you kind of figure out, what to actually charge for your services and what value to put on top of them?
Well, it's research. I always say to people, especially like, for example, if you're a musician artist, if I was buying Brandon's album in a record store, like what other artists are around would be, what section would you be in, and who
Yeah.
are the other artists that I had to thumb through to get to you? Same thing with yourself as a DJ and as event production. Excuse me, as an event producer. There's a you in every city.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so you have to research. You have to relentlessly research, see what works for other people, but don't copy.
Yeah.
Use it as inspiration to do to do what you want to do. So I would say definitely research, research, research. We have plenty of tools to research. Go outside. That's another thing. A lot of us artists are very introverted. I know I am. But you have to talk to people. And closed mouth don't get fed. So that's the main thing. Being able to not only be a good artist, but to be able to actually function in those spaces and talk to people, and you know
Yeah.
those opportunities come when you just sometimes just being somewhere. Opportunities come, but if you're not there,
Yeah,
you
you got to
can't
be
do
in the
it.
room,
You
man.
gotta
You
be
got to
in
be
the
like they
room.
say in Hamilton. You got to be in the room, man.
Yeah.
Now, another one of the things you were focusing on, we were kind of talking was around the idea of like productivity for creatives. You talk
Yeah.
about you have like a lot of different kind of practices and systems and tools you used. And one of them you mentioned was called morning pages, right? Like, tell me
Right.
about that.
So it's a thing where you just your first thing in the morning, right? I use one of those old composition notebooks, right? And it's just like an exhale,
Mm-hmm.
You write whatever comes to mind, just a page of that, and it's just kind of a stream of consciousness kind of thing. It could just be like, I ate tacos all day. You know what I mean?
Right.
It could be anything, but that's just a strategy that I use just to get my creative kind of flow going, and any kind of other things that are on my mind that might be stressing me or whatever, at least I see them on a piece of paper and I'm like, okay. At least it's out of me and on this
Yeah.
paper. So that's just a like kind of a mental tool that I kind of use, every day to kind of just help myself creatively for
It
sure.
kind of just helps you kind of like kickstart
Just
things,
kickstart, yeah.
get things going. Have you kind of seen the improvements since you started doing that?
Absolutely, absolutely. Because you wake up, sometimes you have a lot on your mind,
Mm-hmm.
and just to write it all out, sometimes it's just a relief in itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are some of the other things you use to kind of keep yourself organized and productive?
Well, usually outside of just the morning pages thing, I do research. I do research on similar artists to myself, on similar events to myself. I take notes. I see. There's value in almost everything. Everything is food. I
Yeah.
say. You just you have, like I said, everything is food. You you eat the nutrients and you get rid of the rest. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? So yeah, I do a lot of research daily. On events, on music, on just what's working for other people, what's working internationally. Uh, Not just in the city of Atlanta or
Mm-hmm.
what on the East Coast or whatever.
Yeah. What about so for people that might be having challenges with just being productive or kind of staying on track? Like what's like some of your best tactical advice or just habits you would kind of tell them to start adopting to kind of get kickstarted, kind of like you do with the morning pages.
Yeah. Well, outside of the morning pages, you have to. I would say being healthy too. Just
Yeah.
eating right, and just making because in this arena, right, in the nightlife arena or whatever we're in, you know, it's a lot of it's stress. It's hard on your body. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? It's a lot of stress. You know, so having stress coping mechanisms, exercise, water, meditation, you know, these type of things are helpful, as well as, like I said, doing research daily. You know, comparing notes with others. You know, talking to fellow creatives. You know,
Yeah.
on a daily basis, making a point to meet up with people and talk sometimes, just to have meetings, just to have coffee. Hey, this is what I have coming up. What are some suggestions? What's helped you in the past? You know, and that's helped me a lot. Just talking to friends for sure.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people realize just, because they only consume events, they don't necessarily produce events and do stuff. And then yeah, you throw in the nightlife element, you throw in, again, it's late, you're getting there, you're getting home late,
Yeah.
like just you gotta take care of yourself and mental health is probably a big part of that process too, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think it's the biggest. It's
Hmm.
the biggest part of it for sure. For
What
sure.
kind of stuff do you do to kind of help make sure again that you're staying balanced? I know you talked about like working out, but again, like what are some of the things you're doing, especially again as a creative and you're at nighttime and nightlife? I know we had a lot of people that we've lost over the years and different
Yeah.
things. Like, what are some of the things you're doing to kind of lean in on that side?
Well, like I said, I'm a avid, workout person. I'm a kind
Hmm.
of a gym rat,
Okay.
which only really happened in the last couple of years, because of that fact. There's been a lot of people, not only in slightly older than me in my age group, but people younger than me who have had problems with all kind of things and have passed, unfortunately. So it's just like it was just kind of shocked. It was a shock to my system, like, yo, you need to get on them. This could be you if you were to go down either one of these paths,
Yeah.
So stay on top of it, you know, eat right, drink your water, call your mom. You
Right.
know what I'm saying?
Gotta
Like,
call mom.
gotta call mom.
No, man.
Yeah.
Like, what are some of the other things you do as far as like, just staying balanced, especially with the audience coming in? I'm sure you probably get all kinds of people and perspectives, people coming up from requested songs to just, weird people around the booth and everything. Like, how do you kind of manage and kind of build a good relationship while also staying professional?
Oh yeah. Well, I think for like the groove, for example, people kind of know what time it is,
Yeah.
and then they're there for what we do. You
Right.
know what I mean? Um, when I do high key disco, sometimes it's new people who maybe are new to Atlanta or not used to what we do, what I do there. At MJQ, for example, there's a sign above my head that says "No request,
Yeah.
y'all."
Right.
And sometimes people don't, can't read. You know what I'm saying? So you gotta remind them of, what their reading lessons from elementary school.
Yeah.
No request,
Because
y'all.
you're
You know what I'm
working,
saying?
like you're
I'm
working, you're
working,
not
yeah.
hanging out. You know what
Not
I'm
hanging
saying?
out, yeah. So, yeah, that's the thing. But people are generally respectful. Sometimes you have to kind of be a little more assertive,
Yeah, yeah.
and but people are generally respectful, to you.
That's cool.
You know what
That's
I'm saying?
cool. As you kind of look back, are there any kind of like key moments or just like pivotal experiences that kind of shape how you just approach, the business side of what you do and even the art side as well?
Hmm. Yeah, man. I've had a lot of cool opportunities. I have a shout out to my cousin Scales from Nappy Roots. He's been like a good source of like kind of just navigating the industry, locally and just being on the road,
Yeah.
So I've had an opportunity to travel with them and see a lot of places and just DJing for different crowds of people that I would never run into normally. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? So that's been like super helpful for me. Just navigating, especially in this city.
What's one thing after everything you built? What's one thing you wish you kind of would have known sooner?
Hmm. That the event production is not for the faint of heart. You know what I mean? I've been also privileged to work with Art Beats and Lyrics
Oh
for
yeah.
the past 10
Shout out
years.
Jabbar. Yeah, yeah.
Shout out to Jabari and
And
Dub, you know
yeah,
what
and
I'm
Dub, the
saying?
whole team over there.
Whole team over there. And yeah, that's really helped me get into different markets that I would never get into normally. I've I would have no other reason to go to St. Louis,
Hmm.
but we've except for that tour, and now like I've been able to network with people in all these cities, that are similar to me and similar to us, and just keeping that going. I was able to, when we were in New York, I was able to build a good relationship with Serato,
Hmm.
that I can just go in and you know talk about equipment. They can put me on to new technologies. Just I would also say like, you know, there are companies that that, like Serato, I'm a DJ, so
Yeah.
we all use Serato, so build a relationship with these products that you're using,
Yeah.
whatever the field is. If you're a graphic designer, maybe try to meet somebody at Adobe or something like
Absolutely.
that. Build those relationships too with the corporate entities, of what you do in the art world, because they can really help you. Either it's just hire you for something, sign a check, or just help you with equipment or advice or whatever. Like, so I would definitely like say find the professional organizations around what you do, and definitely build relationships with them as soon as possible.
Yeah, I mean, look,
Yeah.
relationships are one of the most important things. I had a friend of mine tell me a long time ago, and it sank in a little bit later, but he was like, yeah, you just can't do anything without people.
Right.
And so at the end of the day, man, relationships are what kind of brings everybody around and open up new doors for you. I know I value, and I'm sure you meet all kinds of people in all the different events you're doing, man. And so
Absolutely.
again, like leveraging those things goes a long way. This is dope, man. Look, before we get out of here, man, like what's coming up next? Like what are you excited about?
Well, we do have another season of Art Beats and Lyrics coming up.
Okay.
And I'm excited about that. I have High Key Disco coming up on August 29th at El Malo. So yeah, I'm looking forward to traveling and taking it to other cities. Looking at taking it to Tampa potentially, to New York, and just a couple other cities around the country. Like that's really what I want to do. I want to play that funk all over the world. You know what I mean? Like that's what I wanted to do. I kind of, after the pandemic, I was just kind of like, I don't want to like have to know what the new Lil whoever song is. You know what I mean? If I can just be king of the old people, let me be king of the old people, and really lock in, So I've been blessed to kind of find that niche, and it's something that I excel at. So I'm glad I'm being able to, to really put that part of my talent out there and show, hey, this is what I can do,
Absolutely, man. Look, this has been a dope conversation. And before we get out of here, how can somebody get in contact with you? How can they support you? Like, give them all the things.
All right, cool. So you can check me out on Instagram, and I have all the socials at Jeremy Avalon. My website is jeremyavalon.com. Work Crew, you can check us out on Instagram and all the socials there. I am on, let's see, SoundCloud. You can check my mixes. Bandcamp, I have original music. I have several projects coming out on Bandcamp soon, so check for those. It's at Jeremy Avalon.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just did a Cadillac Chronicles episode.
That's dope, man.
Which was really dope. Shout out to Brian. And that's really, if you want to know what I do, watch that.
Okay.
It says that's the music I love, and that's what High Key Disco is.
For sure, man.
Yeah.
Well, yo, man, congratulations on everything. Congratulations to you and the whole Work Crew.
Thank you, man.
On 9 years of the groove and all the other stuff you keep on working on, man.
Shout out Hourglass, Josh J, and Xavier Black, and the whole team.
The whole team, man. Yeah. With that said, we out, y'all. That's the pod.
Peace.
That was great.
Boom. We in it, man.
Oh, man.
See, it was easy.
Oh, man.